Subscribe to this YouTube channel please and enjoy watching the video. Here we go. The earliest cases of doping in sport can be traced back, no pun intended, to the ancient Olympic Games where athletes would reportedly take figs to enhance their performances. While modern medicine is such that athletes don't have to resort to the vast, calorific consumption of fig rolls, the sporting world has witnessed countless attempts by sportspeople to both deliberately and inadvertently cheat the system in order to ensure an advantage over their competitors. In several cases, we have seen athletes go to extreme measures to conceal their doping via reprehensible means that have jeopardized the integrity of their respective competitions and that have come to the detriment of their health. While particular sports such as cycling, boxing, and track events have become more susceptible to a slip of the needle than others, we have witnessed many an instance where footballers have knowingly and unknowingly doped. With some cases proving to be more premeditated than others, even those that are deemed less sinister have resulted in serious repercussions, especially in football. Juventus, and former Manchester United midfielder, Paul Pogba is the latest player found to have been administering performance-enhancing supplements in the form of testosterone after a mandatory drug test. While the player and his agent vehemently deny any wrongdoing and have ardently protested the player's innocence, the World Cup-winning midfielder is set to have his Juventus contract torn up in front of him. While reports suggest he could face up to a potential 2-year ban, we thought it would be a good idea to have a look at other players who have been hit with sanctions and bans for similar offenses. Let's get stuck in. Number 10, Kolo Toure. No, surely not one of the good guys? Kolo Toure's infectious positive energy and smile can light up a room, making the Ivorian one of the most liked players the Premier League has played host to during the last 31 years. The former Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, and Celtic man enjoyed a truly stellar career, winning numerous major honours, and playing for some of the most decorated clubs in British football. However, in May 2011 while playing for Manchester City, Toure was found to have tested positive for a banned substance and was consequently banned for 6 months. The player later admitted to having taken some of his wife's diet pills. Number 9, Paolo Guerrero. Arguably, one of the more unknown names among the sports dopers is Peruvian Paolo Guerrero. The striker, who has featured for the likes of Bayern Munich, Hamburg, and, in more recent times, Brazilian sides such as Flamengo and Internacional, was caught up in a doping storm of his own making in 2018. As the player with the 4th most caps for his country ever, Guerrero had to wait 14 years after his debut until his nation would qualify for a World Cup, having qualified via the playoffs where they'd go on to beat New Zealand 2-0. The player's lifelong dream had been realized. Unfortunately, after a routine drug test returned concerning findings, Guerrero's World Cup hopes were seemingly over. Traces of cocaine were discovered in the player's samples, and as such, he was banned for 14 months, meaning he'd miss the tournament. The player's legal team argued that the failed test was a result of consuming traditional Peruvian tea, and while it was widely accepted the presence of the drug in his system was not intended to enhance performance, the World Anti-Doping Agency upheld the ban. While it looked to all the world as if Guerrero would miss out on his country's first appearance at a World Cup in 32 years, the veteran forward would get a second chance when the ban was temporarily lifted, so he was eligible to play. Number 8, Samir Nasri. A player who often seems to be overlooked as a tremendous Premier League talent is Frenchman, Samir Nasri. The attacking midfielder played for Arsenal and Manchester City and won a plethora of accolades during his time in England. A technically gifted individual, the France international was simply unplayable in his prime. During the 2017-18 campaign, while Nasri was playing for the Turkish Super League side, Antalyaspor, it was discovered that the midfielder had breached doping guidelines in 2016 in the form of an intravenous drip containing an assortment of vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients. While the substance in question is permitted in small quantities, Nasri had been given over 500 milliliters and was even photographed at the clinic where it had been administered in LA. Initially receiving a UEFA ban of 6 months before an appeal lengthened it to 18 months. Number 7, Deco. The Portugal international was utterly spellbinding when he turned it on, and during his early years at Porto and Barcelona, the midfielder played with refreshing freedom that allowed the player to both refine his technical gift and allow him to express himself through his daring creativity. Retiring in 2013 at Brazilian club Fluminense, the former Chelsea man was banned for a year after a diuretic that can be used as a masking agent to screen other prohibited substances. Fortunately, Deco was eventually cleared of the offense, after the laboratory conducting his sample made errors during the investigation, and as such was dropped by FIFA. Number 6, Andre Onana. The acrobatic shot stopper, with his cat-like reflexes and razor-sharp reaction time, has been one of the standout goalkeepers in world football for a number of seasons now. Having previously played for the likes of Ajax and Inter Milan, the 6 feet 3 inches Cameroonian earned himself the move of a lifetime to Manchester United for a fee of £47 million. Back in February 2021, the gifted Onana was banned for a 12-month period following adverse findings in a drug test, with furosemide found in his blood, a banned substance. Onana protested his innocence, attributing the presence of such a substance to mistaking his wife's pregnancy medication for something else. Although the Court of Arbitration for Sport looked at his case more favorably, he was still banned from playing for 9 months. Number 5, Pep Guardiola. A caveat to this is that Pep Guardiola was actually twice cleared of this doping violation, so no offense was actually committed. Nevertheless, this was still very much regarded as a doping scandal in 2001. The Spaniard was still playing professionally for Italian side Brescia, and after a drugs test found nandrolone in his blood, a potent anabolic steroid, he was given a 4-month ban, despite his protests. A mitigating factor in his sentence was that he allegedly was not aware that he was taking a banned substance at the time. Years later, in 2009, the former midfielder was acquitted of all charges and his €50,000 fine was overturned. Number 4, Jaap Stam. Jaap Stam built a reputation for being a no-nonsense, stern-faced, and bullish defender for the likes of Manchester United, AC Milan, Ajax, and PSV Eindhoven. One of the very best centre-halves of his era, Stam would be capped 67 times for his country, and would win 9 major honours at club level. Yet, in 2001, while playing for Serie A side Lazio, Stam was banned from football for 5 months following a drug test that returned findings of nandrolone in his bloodstream, the same anabolic steroid Pep Guardiola had also been accused of consuming. Despite Stam's protestations, he was still banned for 4 months, having had a month knocked off after a partly successful appeal. Number 3, Edgar Davids. The bespectacled, or more pertinently, goggled Dutchman was one of the most distinctive footballers in the world both in appearance and in playing style. The defensive midfielder, who was one of the defining footballers of his era, played for some of the world's most renowned clubs, including Ajax, Barcelona, AC Milan, Juventus, and Inter. As one of the foremost midfielding talents, it sent shockwaves through the sport when, like his national team teammate, Jaap Stam, he also tested positive for the steroid, nandrolone. Both the A and B samples returned positive results for the star, who had expected to receive a 16-month ban from playing, but after an appeal, it was reduced to just a 4-month suspension. Number 2, Adrian Mutu. While not strictly a doping scandal, the infamous case of Romania international, Adrian Mutu, and his failed drug test in 2004 made headline news. The striker had moved to West London for £15 million during the 2003 summer transfer window from Italian side, Parma. As one of the first major signings of the Roman Abramovich era, Mutu signified Chelsea's transition into one of the major players in English football. Big things were expected of the 24-year-old who'd knocked in 22 goals during the preceding campaign in Serie A. Unfortunately, for both club and player, a year after moving, Mutu was found to have remnants of cocaine in his blood after a routine drugs test. Subsequently, Mutu was banned from all football for 7 months, and his contract at the Premier League side was terminated. A costly and lengthy legal battle ensued with Chelsea seeking compensation for breach of contract, and to this day are owed Number 1, Diego Maradona. The Argentinian superstar was his country's golden boy, albeit a troubled golden boy at that. A magician with a ball at his feet, the World Cup winner could manipulate a ball unlike anyone else. Throughout his career, Maradona battled with all sorts of issues away from the field that distracted him from the important matters on it. Alcohol, cocaine, and sex addiction were the main problems, but his doping debacle came in the form of testing positive for 5 variants of ephedrine, a stimulant banned by FIFA, and was therefore sent home prematurely from the tournament. Nevertheless, this didn't prevent Maradona from cementing his legacy in the game as one of the greatest players to ever play the game, a god in his home country of Argentina, and a darling of world football that fans around the world still appreciate to this very day. Thank you for enjoying this video. We sign out.